African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals, intelligence, and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command and combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing on the progress of the special military operation as of May 30, 2026. In response to terrorist attacks launched by Ukraine against civilian facilities on the territory of Russia, the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out a group strike with long-range, ground and air-based high-precision weapons and strike drones against military airfields, energy, fuel and transport infrastructure facilities used in the interests of the armed forces of Ukraine. The targets were defeated, all the assigned facilities were neutralized. The North Group of Forces improved the tactical situation. Russian troops launched strikes on manpower and hardware of one mechanized brigade, one motorized infantry brigade, and one unmanned systems brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine near Izbitskoye, Bely Kolodez, and Staritsa in the Kharkov region. In Sumy region, strikes were delivered at formations of one mechanized brigade, one assault regiment of the armed forces of Ukraine, and one territorial defense brigade near Khotin, Bachevsk, Kondratovka, and Ivoljanskoye in the Sumy region. The enemy lost up to 200 troops, one armored fighting vehicle, and 16 motor vehicles. The West Group of Forces improved the situation along the front line. In addition, strikes were delivered at the manpower and hardware of two mechanized brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and one territorial defense brigade near Shcherovo, Sidorovo, Svyatogorsk in the Donetsk People's Republic, Velikaya Shapkovka, and Shikovka in the Kharkov region. The armed forces of Ukraine losses amounted to more than 180 troops, 21 motor vehicles, 2 field artillery guns, and 1 electronic warfare station. The South Group of Forces took more advantageous lines and positions. The group's units inflicted losses on formations of 3 mechanized brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, 1 Marine brigade, and 1 territorial defense brigade near Nikolaevka, Alexeyevo-Drushkovka, Artema, Ray-Alexandrovka, Piskunovka, Konstantinovka, and Malinovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy has lost more than 85 troops, 3 armored fighting vehicles, 4 artillery guns, and 13 motor vehicles. The Center Group of Forces took more advantageous lines and positions. Russian troops inflicted losses on manpower and hardware of 2 mechanized brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, 1 Marine brigade, and 2 National Guard brigades near Vodyanskoye, Anovka, Belitskoye, Sergeyevka, Novo-Alexandrovka in the Donetsk People's Republic, and Novopavlovka in the Dnepropetrovsk region. The armed forces of Ukraine losses amounted to more than 340 troops, 8 armored fighting vehicles, and 4 motor vehicles. The East Group of Forces continued advancing into the depth of enemy defense. Russian elements inflicted damage on manpower and hardware of 3 mechanized brigades, 1 assault brigade, 3 air assault brigades, and 3 assault regiments of the armed forces of Ukraine, close to Gavrilovka, Podgavrilovka, Malomikhailovka, Kolomytsy in the Dnepropetrovsk region, Timoshevka, Kopani, and Komsomolskoye in the Zaporozhye region. The armed forces of Ukraine losses amounted to more than 455 troops, 9 motor vehicles, and 1 artillery gun. The DNEPR Group's units inflicted losses on 1 mechanized brigade and 1 mountain assault brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, close to Grigorovka, Belogorye, and Dimitrovo in the Zaporozhye region. More than 60 troops, 2 field artillery guns, 12 motor vehicles, and 3 electronic warfare stations were neutralized. Operational tactical aviation, attack UAVs, missile troops, and artillery of the Russian groups of forces have inflicted losses on temporary deployment areas of Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries in 148 areas. Air defense systems shot down 10 guided aerial bombs, 1 US-made HIMARS MLRS projectile, and 352 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles.
In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, the enemy has lost 671 aircraft, 284 helicopters, 153,684 unmanned aerial vehicles, 661 anti-aircraft missile systems, 29,550 tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, 1,727 MLRS combat vehicles, 35,136 field artillery guns and mortars, 62,874 units of support military vehicles.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.